election that just happened.
The $1.1 trillion package now goes to the Senate, where it is expected to pass. That would put off further funding drama until September or so. Brett?
Mike Emanuel live on the Hill. Mike, thanks. We'll head back for breaking news as we get it on that decision, whether the vote's tomorrow or not. Meantime, the last major individual health insurer is reportedly set to leave Iowa. The Des Moines Register reports that means more than 70,000 people could be without coverage options next year. The state's two other big individual insurers are both pulling out, citing huge losses. Now Medica, a Minnesota-based company, says it is close to a decision on abandoning that market in Iowa. The head of the FBI says he stands by his decision to alert Congress about a new phase of the Hillary Clinton email investigation less than 2 weeks before the election. Yesterday, Clinton blamed James Comey in part for her loss last November. Today, many Democrats joined that chorus. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge shows us tonight.
So help God.
The FBI director defended his decision to reopen the Clinton email probe 11 days before Americans went to the polls.
It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election.
Director Comey told the Senate Judiciary Committee thousands of Clinton emails, many new to investigators and classified, were found on Anthony Weiner's computer as part of a separate criminal case. Weiner shared the laptop with his now estranged wife and Clinton aide Huma Abedin.
You took an enormous gamble. The gamble was that there was something there that would invalidate her candidacy, and there wasn't.
Everybody who disagrees with me has to come back to October 28th. Would you speak or would you conceal?
Well, Director, I do think there was a third door available to you in late last year, just before the election, and that was to confirm the existence of an ongoing investigation about the Trump campaign.
Comey was pressed on the decision not to prosecute Abedin or Weiner for mishandling classified information.
How does that conduct not directly violate that statute?
This exchange provided one of the few lighthearted moments during the 4-hour hearing.
That anybody that has Anthony Weiner had classified information probably should be prosecuted. Well, if our laws don't cover that, they probably should.
There's no Anthony Weiner statute, but there's already
Well, maybe we need one.
Comey said he couldn't talk about a document reportedly obtained by Russian hackers that implied then Attorney General Loretta Lynch would block criminal charges against then candidate Clinton.
Did the FBI interview the person who wrote the email? If not, why not?
I have to give you the same answer. I can't talk about that in an unclassified setting.
Comey said he took on the burden of speaking publicly last July when he recommended against criminal charges for Clinton because his boss put her impartiality in doubt.
The capper was, and I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me.
Comey would not disclose the Bureau's payments to or relationship with Christopher Steele, a former British intelligence officer who wrote the unverified Trump dossier.
Did anyone from the FBI have interactions with Mr. Steele regarding the issue?
It's not a question that I can answer in this forum.
The failure to provide answers finally boiled over.
If I, Chuck Grassley, as a private citizen, file a Freedom of Information Act, and you give me more information than you'll give to Senator Chuck Grassley, how do you justify that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't.
What do you mean it's a good question? How do you justify it?
But I was going to say it's a good question. I can't as I sit here.
Ye gods.
The FBI director said he is the subject of an ongoing Inspector General's investigation into how the FBI and Justice Department handled the Clinton email case. Director Comey confirmed he has been interviewed. And while there's no timeline for the report, it is expected to tackle Lynch's meeting with Bill Clinton 1 week before his wife's FBI interview, Brett.
And Catherine, what's happening on the investigation into the unmasking of Trump associates?
Well, a congressional source confirms to Fox News tonight that President Obama's former National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, who's at the heart of the unmasking allegations, has passed on an invitation to testify Monday before a Senate committee. In a letter, Rice's lawyers said it was too short notice and the invitation was not extended on a bipartisan basis. Rice will assist congressional investigators, but only in a non-public classified setting, Brett.
Okay, more on this with the panel. Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
At least 8 Afghan civilians were killed and 3 American service members wounded in an ISIS suicide car bombing near the U.S. Embassy in Kabul today. An Afghan official says another 25 civilians were were injured in the morning rush hour attack. 2 U.S. officials tell Fox News Iran attempted to launch a cruise missile from a submarine in the Strait of Hormuz Tuesday. They say the test failed. In February, Iran claimed to have successfully tested a submarine-launched missile. It's not clear if Tuesday's was the first to launch underwater from a submarine. President Trump says it is up to the Israelis and the Palestinians to make peace, but he also says he's willing to do what he can. The president met with the Palestinian Authority's leader today. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts has that story live from the North Lawn. Good evening, John.
Brett, good evening to you. It seems that every new administration comes in with lofty goals of finally being the one to forge a Middle East peace agreement. Well, the Trump administration is no different.
Thank you for being here.
It was their first meeting, but the instant chemistry between President Trump and Mahmoud Abbas was unmistakable. The question, is it enough to bridge the unbridgeable gaps between Israel and the Palestinians?
Any agreement cannot be imposed by the United States or by any other nation. The Palestinians and Israelis must work together to reach an agreement that allows both peoples to live, worship, and thrive and prosper in peace.
Before the two leaders even met, Abbas laid down a marker, one he repeated in the joint statement. Israel must withdraw to borders in place before the 1967 Six-Day War and accept East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state if it wants peace.
Mr. President, it's about time for Israel to end its occupation of our people and of our land.
But President Trump had some markers of his own, demanding that the Palestinian Authority stop payments to Palestinians held in Israeli prisons and their families, and to rein in anti-Israel incitement by Palestinian media. While President Trump is declaredly pro-Israel, Palestinians believe he is the one president who might actually strike a deal.
The president's ability to connect with an individual, to work with them towards a shared goal, to have backroom diplomacy, is something that is going to continue to pay dividends and get results for this country.
Before the meeting, National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster primed the pump at the Israel Independence Day dinner, saying the president is, quote, not a super patient man, and, quote, does not have time to debate over doctrine. His reputation as disruptive is good because, quote, we can no longer afford to invest in policies that do not advance the interests and values of the United States and our allies. Whether President Trump can be the one to succeed where so many other presidents have failed is an open question. But he promised today he will be dedicated to the task.
And I will do whatever is necessary to facilitate the agreement, to mediate, to arbitrate, anything they'd like to do. But I would love to be a mediator or an arbitrator or a facilitator, and we will get this done.
Hamas has recently changed its position, saying it will now accept a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders in Israel, and that was the policy of the Obama administration as well. President Trump has not articulated where he thinks the borders of a Palestinian state should be and isn't even really sold on the idea that there should be a two-state solution. Brett?
John, on another issue, we've seen a lot of executive orders out of this president. What's the status on the president's executive order on religious liberty?
A very controversial one coming tomorrow. Fox News has learned that the president will sign an executive order which will instruct the Treasury Department and the IRS to not enforce the provisions of the so-called Johnson Amendment, which prohibits churches and other tax-exempt organizations from engaging in religious activity, and at the same time will also allow certain nonprofit organizations, businesses, hospitals, and educational institutions to exclude certain medical benefits for religious reasons. You'll remember the case of the Little Sisters of the Poor. Abortion services and contraception was the issue there, as well as a recent case on Hobby Lobby. So a very controversial executive order coming tomorrow, Brett, but one that has been much sought after by religious organizations.
That will be a big deal for those organizations. John, thank you. Stephen Colbert has long been known for the intellectual quality he brings to his stand-up comedy, but an on-air rant against President Trump this week saw the late-night talk show host descending to a level of vulgarity seldom seen on network television. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen has the story and the fallout, or lack thereof.
When you insult one member of the CBS family, you insult us all.
The pretext for Monday night's rant by comedian Stephen Colbert was a defense of colleague John Dickerson, whose Sunday show the president had mocked as Deface the Nation. Then America's top-rated late-night host went where no man had ever gone before.
You're the presidents, but you're turning into a real pricktator. You talk like a sign language gorilla who got hit in the head. In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
Colbert's shocking use of profanity, while undoubtedly funny to segments of the viewing audience, marked to many eyes a dubious new landmark in the annals of political satire.
Never have I seen a joke like this, so tasteless and so crude, uttered on network television, and it was on tape. That means that somebody at CBS thought it was okay to air this.
As Colbert's riff racked up nearly 3 million YouTube views, a Fire Colbert hashtag swiftly formed on Twitter, with calls for a boycott of products advertised on The Late Show. The Family Research Council called the joke below the belt, a new low.
Can you imagine if the roles were reversed and a conservative comedian used a homophobic slur to refer to President Obama or Hillary Clinton?
The controversy bears some structural similarity to an episode in 2012 when conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh, America's top-rated radio host, called Georgetown law student Sandra Fluck, an advocate for federal subsidization of female contraception, a slut and a prostitute.
She wants to be paid to have sex. She's having so much sex she can't afford the contraception.
Then House Speaker John Boehner, a Republican, rebuked Limbaugh, as did President Obama.
The remarks that were made don't have any place in the public discourse.
Limbaugh apologized after advertisers pulled ads from his show.
Companies tend to yank their advertising dollars only when there's a big media firestorm. The media love Stephen Colbert and are far more receptive to anti-Trump humor.
A number of parties we contacted for comment on the Colbert rant either refused or never responded. These include current House Speaker Paul Ryan, Democratic Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi, CBS, and the White House, Brett, where Press Secretary Sean Spicer told us he wouldn't dignify Colbert's comments with a response.
On this with the panel, James, thank you. Well, what do you think at home? What do you think should be done about Colbert's rant? If anything, let me know on Twitter at Bret Baier and use the hashtag special report, or on Facebook at facebook.com/BretBaierSR. Police in and around Chicago are searching right now at this hour for whoever shot and wounded a pair of undercover officers last night. Correspondent Matt Finn has an update.
An intense manhunt for the suspects considered armed and dangerous who opened fire on 2 Chicago police officers. Police say Tuesday night 2 plainclothes officers were working a case in an unmarked van when the suspects fired at the officers with a high-powered gun and took off. One officer was hit in the back, the other in the arm and hip. Both are doing okay and were released from the hospital Wednesday. Police officials say they've recovered 2 weapons. 3 people of interest are in custody, including a female who may have helped the suspects get away. Investigators think there are still multiple individuals at large that are tied to this police ambush. The shootings happened in a South Side neighborhood that's been a recent hotbed of gang activity. According to the police, gang members are increasingly using high-powered rifles, even AK-47s, posing a new threat.
It's another example of how dangerous this job is. And I think people take it for granted that when police officers come to work every day, they put their lives on the line.
This latest shooting fuels the fiery political debate on Chicago's daily deadly violence, with police and city leaders pleading for stronger laws and prosecution against repeat gun offenders.
I'm willing to stake my reputation today on the fact that the individuals who perpetrated this act against our police are probably known gang members and probably repeat gun offenders.
This is a sensitive case. Police have not released a description of the suspects, and they're also not identifying the undercover police officers because of the nature of the work they do in Chicago's dangerous neighborhoods. Brett?
Matt Finn, live in Chicago. Matt, thank you. Up next, what is it really like to live in North Korea? We'll hear from an outspoken defector. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 8 in New Orleans, as Justice Department officials say they will not pursue charges against 2 white Baton Rouge police officers involved in the death of a black man last summer. The fatal shooting of Alton Sterling prompted days of protests last July that culminated in the killings of 3 Baton Rouge police officers. Fox 16 in Little Rock, Arkansas, as the failure of a levee on the Black River prompts a flash flood warning and calls for evacuations in that area. The National Weather Service is advising people who live along that river to move to higher ground immediately. And this is a live look at Seattle from our affiliate Q13 Fox. One of the big stories there tonight, a small plane makes an emergency landing on Harbor Point Boulevard. Tuesday's incident left several cars damaged, but no serious injuries, amazingly. The pilot told investigators he was losing too much altitude to make it to the airport. The plane clipped power lines and hit a street light, knocking out electricity in that area. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Tenna. Tenna lets you be you.
Say no to this because of my bladder? Thanks to Tenna, not anymore. Only new Tenna Intimates has Pro Skin technology designed to quickly wick away moisture to help maintain your skin's natural balance. It goes beyond triple protection from leaks, odor, and moisture, so you can feel fresh and free to get as close as you want. Only Tenna lets you be you.
Are you a veteran, own a home, and need cash? You need to know about the New Day 100 Home Loan for Veterans. The New Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, put cash in the bank, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. New Day will even pay your appraisal fee, and they'll do everything they possibly can to get you approved. Call them today.
Go to newdayusa.com or call 1-855-NEW-DAY-USA.
If you've tried every pill on the shelf to treat your tough nasal allergies, listen up. Unlike pills that don't treat congestion, Clarispray covers 100% of your nasal allergy symptoms. Clarispray, from the makers of Claritin.
At Old Dominion, we ship everything you can imagine. And everything we ship has something in common. Whether it's expedited overnight or shipped around the globe, it's handled by OD employees who know that delivering freight means delivering promises. OD, helping the world keep promises.
Constipated? Trust #1 doctor recommended Dulcolax. Use Dulcolax tablets for gentle, dependable relief, suppositories for relief in minutes, and Dulcoes for comfortable relief of hard stools. Dulcolax, designed for dependable relief.
Do you use catheters? Are you using the catheter that's really best for you?
Oh, yeah. For years, I'd been using one kind of catheter, and I never knew that there were other really great catheters available until Liberator sent me samples to try. If I had not tried the samples from Liberator, I might never have found the perfect catheter for me. Liberator Medical sent me a catheter that was easier.
Where you're treated like more than just a customer. You're the star. Introducing the all-new Mercedes-Benz of Goldens Bridge, New York, the newest member of the Celebrity Motor Car Company, formerly Estate Motors in Westchester. Receive a VIP experience unlike any other. The all-new Mercedes-Benz of Goldens Bridge. Get the status you deserve and the value you expect.
As tensions increase with North Korea, the U.S. military has once again tested a missile capable of sending a nuclear payload across the world. The unarmed Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile blasted off from Vandenberg Air Force Base and delivered a single re-entry vehicle to a target 4,200 miles away in the Pacific Ocean. It is the second such launch from the Central California base in the last 7 days. North Korea is confirming that it is holding another American citizen for allegedly plotting against the communist country. 58-year-old Kim Sang-dok is an accounting instructor at Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. Kim was stopped as he and his wife tried to get on a flight to China. North Korea has not given a specific reason for the arrest. Kim is the third American currently in North Korean custody. Tonight, senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palkot talks with a North Korean defector with plenty to say about what's going on there and how the world is responding.
Hunsa Lee is one of the best-known defectors from North Korea, and at only 37, one of the most outspoken about the controlling North Korean regime of Kim Jong-un.
North Korean regime really good at control people. I think they're the best dictator in this whole planet.
After fleeing North Korea in 1997 when she was still in her teens, and then following difficult years in China, she finally made it to South Korea and the West. Her book, The Girl with Seven Names, referring to the aliases she used during her escape, is a global bestseller. Her TED Talk speech has been viewed online some 13 million times. She talks about slavery under the rigid regimes of Kim Jong-un's father and grandfather.
We just only received this much and we don't have enough. So that's how we automatically become the slave of the regime.
She witnessed executions, indoctrination, and a famine in the 90s which left an estimated 1 million dead and abandoned.
Because of so many dead bodies, and there's certain people's job is to get rid of those bodies. And
the job is to get rid of them.
Yeah.
She was also taught about enemy number one, America.
We don't have the words like Americans, but American bastards. It's one word.
One word.
Always American bastards, American bastards.
Fast forward to today and President Trump's tough talk about North Korea. Hunsa said when she first heard it, she cried.
No any president say that words until today, because even though we have suffered for 7 decades.
The challenge is delivering on that rhetoric. She says North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is a dangerous foe with his nukes and missiles and repression. The killing this year of his half-brother in Malaysia, a warning.
If they want to do something, they could do, because
they could do something against you?
Yeah.
Still, she holds on to a dream. Do you think that sometime in your life you'll be able to go back to your old home?
I strongly believe it.
You believe it?
I believe it.
Aside from trying to kill them, the regime of Kim Jong-un brands defectors like Hunsa Lee liars. We checked her accounts with experts. We were told she's the real deal, and a brave one too. Brett.
Great story. Greg Palkot in London. Greg, thank you. Rebel leaders bolted from today's Syria peace talks. However, the idea of establishing safe zones discussed yesterday between President Trump and the Russian leader Vladimir Putin seems to be gaining some traction. As the talking proceeds, so too does the deadly violence. Correspondent John Huddy has the latest from our Middle East newsroom.
The twisted and charred metal burned in the street of what was left of the vehicle used in a car bomb attack today in northern Syria, a country ravaged by war.
The intentional result of the bombing is 5 dead and more than 12 or 13 injured men.
The attack happened in the town of Azaz, just a few miles from the Turkish border, a region blackened by Syria's more than 6-year civil war. Today, the 4th round of peace talks this year alone started in Kazakhstan, attempting to reach a sustainable ceasefire, an exhaustive mission that has failed many times already. A U.S. delegation is involved in the talks, along with diplomats from Russia, Iran, and Turkey. Opposition leaders are demanding once again that Syria's government stops bombing rebel-held areas. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia and the Syrian regime would halt flights over specified zones if all sides respect a ceasefire. The talks also focus on creating so-called safe zones in Syria to ensure that a ceasefire holds. 4 zones where fighting would be stopped between government and rebel forces and monitored by international observers, allowing for the return of refugees. The civil war has resulted in the death of more than 300,000 people and the displacement of more than 11 million people. The Safe Zone plan has White House support.
We discussed this topic with Mr. Trump over the phone yesterday, and as far as I understand, the American administration supports the idea.
But problems have already started in the talks. Opposition leaders walked out of a meeting today protesting, they say, Russian airstrikes on civilians, an accusation that Russia denies. Well, the talks are scheduled to continue tomorrow, and another attempt to bring both sides to the table. Brett?
John Huddy in our Middle East newsroom. John, thank you. Puerto Rico's governor has announced an historic restructuring of some of the territory's $70 billion debt. The decision to go through the courts is a process similar to bankruptcy. It will protect Puerto Rico from several lawsuits filed yesterday when a freeze on such litigation expired. Here in the markets, stocks were mixed. The Dow gained 8, the S&P 500 lost 3, the Nasdaq dropped 23. Meantime, the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates right where they are for now. Let's get some analysis of that from Fox Business Network's Liz Klayman in New York. Good evening, Liz. How does the Fed see the jobs market right now?
Well, I'll tell you something. They addressed it very strongly. The good news is, though, that they don't see it, at least at this moment, slowing down like they do see the economy. So the borrowing of money remains cheap because the Fed announced today what was widely expected, and that was that rates will stay historically very low, about 0.75% to 1%, no change at all. Why? Well, the Fed statement indicated that they see this pace of economic growth slowing. And remember, the latest GDP number out for the quarter was just 0.7%. So the Fed, in essence, is giving a nod to the fact that the economy is still trying to pull itself out of the quicksand. Now, that's actually not President Trump's fault, or it wouldn't be any other president's fault, because the first quarter, Brett, is sort of widely seen as the weakest of the year for a whole host of reasons that economists get excited about. But let's just say it has to do with the way the government collects data. However, President Trump has said that if something close to what he has proposed as a tax plan were to be passed by Congress, growth would spike to about 3%. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has said that it might take about 2 years to reach 3%. But for now, everybody's looking toward the next Fed meeting, which is in June. And Wall Street traders, they'll bet on anything. They're going to bet that there's a 71 chance of a rate hike next month. But even with Republicans controlling the House, Brett, and of course the Senate, we've seen some real divisiveness. So among them, tax reform is not guaranteed. That leaves the Fed to scrutinize every piece of data to give it direction, including the May jobs report, which is out Friday. So the conundrum is that the Fed addressed the jobs report, saying that even as economic activity slowed, job growth remains strong, and it'll continue to show more muscle.
Yeah, quickly, Liz, you know, today we saw the health care bill being talked about, and as they looked like they were getting more votes or closer to it, it looked like the market took a little uptick there. The House also passed the spending bill today by a wide margin. That now goes to the Senate. Could that affect markets, people's money?
I would say absolutely, because lately you've seen that news out of D.C. is affecting the stock market. Now, the news that the House was voting on the spending bill, you're right. It hit right before the market closed. And while we didn't see any dramatic spikes, the Dow, which had been negative most of the day, kind of clawed its way into the green, stayed there. And then the Nasdaq and the S&P cut their losses. So now we wait for the Senate and we'll see. But tomorrow there might be some interesting moves in the markets.
Yeah, with healthcare pending, too. Liz, thank you. American Airlines is cutting the already sparse legroom for travelers in economy class. The airline says it will trim 2 more inches between seats in some sections so it can add more seats to its new Boeing 737 MAX jetliners. That will leave as little as 29 inches of space. United Airlines is also said to be considering such a move. Speaking of flying, scientists in Florida are trying to do something about mosquitoes before the summer hits. Correspondent Phil Keating tells us about a new approach to an old problem.
Ready? The Florida Keys will have 40,000 mosquitoes a week flying in to take their own little buzzing vacations of sorts.
You can hear them. 1,000 male Aedes aegypti mosquitoes in this tube.
And Catherine Brzezinski's got 20 of these tubes, all full of mosquitoes.
So this looks like a good spot.
Twice a week, she walks this 10-acre test site on Stock Island, part industrial, part residential, blowing the mosquitoes out into the air to then go find a female and mate.
They might be a little annoying if they're flying around, 1,000 right next to you. I'm not annoyed, but you guys might be a little annoyed. But, I just ate one.
These mosquitoes come from Kentucky's Mosquito Mate Laboratory, where they've been fed a natural bacteria called Wolbachia. That bacteria sterilizes the males. Males don't bite, just the females, and that leads to the mad science.
That's the key advantage of this, is they're self-delivering. They find females, and when they mate with those females, doesn't kill the females, but their eggs don't hatch.
And logically, the mosquito population should then dramatically shrink. This species of mosquito can infect humans with the potentially deadly viruses Zika, dengue fever, and chikungunya. Zika is linked to birth defects in babies born to women who became infected while pregnant. The mosquitoes thrive in South Florida's humid subtropical climate, and the wet season begins in less than a month, which is why the mosquito experts are quite eager to see how effective these buzzing tubes will be.
Year-round, we have beautiful weather, so if there was no mosquito control down here, it would be detrimental to our community.
It would be miserable.
It would be miserable.
Last year, the Keys intended a similar lab mosquito release, but with genetically modified mosquitoes. But that generated a whole lot of opposition among residents. But since this year's test involves natural bacteria, not GMOs, there's basically been no public bite back. Brett.
Phil Keating in Key West. Phil, thanks. Could a vote on health care be coming tomorrow? We'll ask the panel, talk about all of it next. But first, Medal of Honor recipient Leo Thorsness has died. In 1967 in Vietnam, Thorsness engaged 4 enemy aircraft despite being low on fuel in order to ensure the safety of 2 American pilots who had ejected from their aircraft. 11 days later, his own plane was shot down, and he spent almost 6 years as a prisoner of war. Congressional Medal of Honor Society states there are now only 74 living recipients of the military's highest honor, the Medal of Honor. Colonel Leo Thorsness was 85.
We asked a group of young people when they thought they should start saving for retirement. Then we asked some older people when they actually did start saving. This gap between when we should start saving and when we actually do is one of the reasons why too many of us aren't prepared for retirement.
Just start as early as you can. It's going to pay off in the future.
If we all start saving a little more today, we'll all be better prepared tomorrow.
Prudential, bring your challenges. Topical pain relievers can seem very similar until you take a closer look at this one. Salonpas Pain Relief Patch. Salonpas isn't just the first. It's the only FDA-approved OTC topical NSAID. Our clinical trials proved it works up to 12 hours against mild to tougher moderate pain, making Salonpas the strongest labeled pain reliever available without a prescription. That's powerful relief you can feel. Salonpas for tough pain.
Landowners, don't settle on a tractor just because of the paint color. Choose the power and performance of a Mahindra, the toughest tractors on earth. Only Mahindra tractors deliver more lift capacity, more built-in weight, and the industry's best 7-year limited powertrain warranty. Standard. Plus, get up to $9,200 in cash back and savings. So get your work done, America.
If you have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis like me, and you're talking to your rheumatologist about a medication, this is Humira. This is Humira helping to relieve my pain and protect my joints from further damage. Humira has been clinically studied for over 18 years. Humira works by targeting and helping to block a specific source of inflammation that contributes to RA symptoms. It's proven to help relieve pain and stop further joint damage in many adults.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB. Hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Talk to your doctor and visit Humira.com. This is Humira at work.
Come on, Josh. When someone truly believes in you, you can achieve great things, like hitting the game-winning home run. At Loan Depot, we believe in helping you achieve the American dream of owning a home. Loan Depot is the only lender that provides critical illness coverage which you can use to pay your mortgage payments, up to $30,000 in case you're unable to work. That's impressive. And if interest rates ever drop, you can refinance without any lender closing costs. Loan Depot, we believe in you.
They have put this forth to make it look like, oh, we've improved the bill. No, it doesn't improve the bill.
What this amendment would do is provide additional funds directly into the
high-risk pools.
As if it's enough to provide support for pre-existing conditions.
I'm anxious to vote yes. I'm anxious to see what the Senate will do with our product.
Trump Care cannot pass the Senate. So to my moderate Republican colleagues in the House, I ask, why would you risk a yes vote?
We just need to take the vote and do it, and I think it passes as soon as we do.
We've been gaining votes today, and that's been a real positive development.
Meetings are continuing at this hour up on Capitol Hill. We cannot say yet whether they're going to try to vote on repeal and replacing Obamacare, this health care bill, tomorrow in the House. We can say a lot of meetings happened today. For example, the Vice President was up on Capitol Hill, as was the HHS Secretary, the CMS Administrator. And there was some optimism. As you look at the Dow, I mentioned it with Liz Clayman, about 11 noon, there was word that 2 key health care votes had come over, and there was indication that the Dow liked that news. Maybe it was the spending bill as well. But they're moving. Let's see how much. Let's bring in our panel. Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist. Jonah Goldberg, senior editor at National Review. And Carol Lee, White House correspondent for The Wall Street Journal. Carol, your sense, after that meeting at the White House, is there a sense at the White House that this is kind of going to come to fruition?
They feel much better about it. I was at the White House today when the House members came out and talked to reporters after the meeting with Trump. It was a lengthy meeting, and they seem to have reached some sort of compromise that they feel they can thread the needle with this. And the White House later, however, made some pretty significant promises, saying that the preconditions would be the same exact, the guarantee that everybody who had used the preconditions provision would have the same effect and it wouldn't change. They also admitted that they don't know exactly what the effect would be on premiums. And so they're optimistic about this. And as you know, they've had a very tough go so far on any of the president's legislative priorities. So they would very much like a vote on this. And then, it goes to the Senate, where obviously that's a much tougher haul. You're talking about the pre-existing conditions, and this was a big problem for moderates particularly. The president also referenced it this weekend. Fred Upton from Michigan offered an amendment, and basically here he is explaining what it does.
It's our understanding that the $8 billion over the 5 years will more than cover those that might be impacted, and as a consequence keeps our pledge for those that in fact would be otherwise denied because of pre-existing illnesses. So the guess is that, should a state decide to go for a waiver, that there'd be fewer at the beginning than the end of the 5 years.
So to keep it simple, Jonah, this bill puts people into high-risk pools, and that's their solution for pre-existing conditions. If for some reason they slip through the cracks, this amendment provides money to make sure that they are covered.
Yeah, and frankly, I find the whole thing kind of bizarre. First of all, Fred Upton has been talking for years now about doing precisely what he spent the last week opposing. And it's a very bizarre, hypocritical position that he's taken. But moreover, the GOP, particularly the GOP moderates, seem to have bought into the spin that was put out in very aggressive style by the Obama administration, that the key issue here is pre-existing conditions, that is what kept people from getting insurance, when that was actually a tiny fraction of the issue. The real issue isn't pre-existing medical conditions, it's pre-existing economic conditions. But pre-existing medical conditions polls better. It's one of the only really popular features of Obamacare, and the Republicans seem to have bought into it, even though, like Tom MacArthur from New Jersey, a lot of these states, like New Jersey, already have guarantees about pre-existing conditions and had them for decades. So even if they got a waiver from Obamacare, it wouldn't affect anybody with pre-existing conditions. It's a weird poll testing a complaint of convenience rather than dealing with the actual issues about getting more people insured.
And here is Raul Labrador on this very issue, making that argument.
You guys in the media have been reporting that we're not taking care of people with pre-existing conditions, and that's just absolutely false. What our bill does, it creates what's called an invisible risk pool, where everybody's premiums are going to be going down, and some people's premiums are going to be subsidized by the government, and those people are going to be usually people with pre-existing conditions and others.
All right, Molly.
Well, the question of polling is also interesting because people actually don't support having these big provisions for pre-existing conditions when they understand how expensive it is and how little it actually has to do with health outcomes. There's also something just utterly bizarre about not understanding Economics 101 of insurance, where you need to be paying into it for a long time, not having free riders who only come in and pay up once they need medical care, and then also that there's not an understanding that people who cost more in terms of what their insurance costs are should be sharing a bigger share of the burden. That doesn't mean that they have to pay all of their burden or that it should bankrupt them or anything like this, but this is just a basic schematic of insurance, is that you want to make sure that people are incentivized properly. So this is an interesting change.
Yeah, Democrats are howling. Senator Schumer on the floor talking about this amendment.
We don't even know if the new version would survive the rules under reconciliation. The amendment to allow states to drop pre-existing condition requirement, for instance, very possibly violates the Byrd Rule. If the moderate group in the House gets an additional amendment to deal with the very same issue, that may violate the Byrd Rule as well.
And before everybody at home glazes over, the Byrd Rule, just to be clear, this is from the Washington Post. In the 80s, Senator Robert Byrd, a Democrat of West Virginia, advocated for a rule to prevent anything that doesn't directly change the level of spending or revenue, or where the changes are mere incidental to the policy, from being passed under reconciliation. It's known as the Byrd Rule, and any senator can raise a point of order under it to challenge a policy's pertinence to the budget. The Byrd Rule is largely what keeps policymakers from just passing an entire Obamacare repeal replace bill under reconciliation and calling it a day. Reconciliation, Carol, enables the Republicans to vote it through with 51 votes and not 60.
Right, and that's what you just described there is one of the many challenges that this legislation is going to have when it moves to the Senate. Republicans can only afford to lose 2 senators in whatever process takes place in the Senate, however they change that bill, so that's going to be a challenge. And then obviously it has to go back to the House, and they have to reconcile that there. So we're in the beginning of a very long process, and I think what's happened is that the White House has so much wanted just some sort of movement on their legislative agenda, that they've put a lot of stock in this one House vote, but it's really just the beginning.
Any other day, Jonah, the leader of the Palestinian Authority meeting with the president in the Oval Office would have been the top. But this is drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, and it's been like this, it feels like now for, 103 days. It's a newsy environment. It's remarkable.
Is the Middle East peace talk that the president said, he said, well, they might not have been as tough as it has been. I believe that we can get this done. And he says, let's prove him wrong. And Abbas says, okay.
It's delightful to see this level of optimism about fixing something that goes back for so long. But it's good that people are beginning to make some movements, and we'll see how things go.
He really raised expectations today in terms of his ability to get a deal.
We will see. Next up, the head of the FBI talks about influencing the presidential election and other things.
Did you know that silver is considered one of the world's most useful commodities, second only to oil? You can't buy an oil field, but you can buy silver, the world's miracle metal. With endless uses in green energy, electronics, and medicine, discover why the experts say silver is the new oil.
Silver is actually my favorite investment, particularly at this price.
I think silver's going to $200 an ounce. I love silver.
Call Lear Capital at 1-800-885-6000 to get this special report, Vanishing Silver, and free Experts DVD. Discover why Rich Dad Poor Dad's best-selling author Robert Kiyosaki loves silver, and why these experts see silver as a win-win investment. The first 50 callers also get our Precious Metals IRA Transfer Guide and up to $600 in free gold or silver. This offer ends soon. Call 1-800-885-6000. 1-800-885-6000. That's 1-800-885-6000. Call now.
The art of global affairs. Is Trump's new tactic for negotiating with world leaders really working? General Jack Keane has critical details tonight on The Story with Martha McCallum.
When you see an intruder, you act fast.
Boo.
So do we.
Why aren't you running away?
Raid kills roaches 7 times faster than the next leading ant and roach spray.
7 times faster? Raid!
Get Raid and get tough on roaches fast. It's good to be tough. S.C. Johnson, a family company.
I no longer live with the uncertainties of Hep C, wondering, what if? I let go of all those feelings because I am cured with Harvoni.
Harvoni is a revolutionary treatment for the most common type of chronic hepatitis C. It's been prescribed to more than 250,000 people and is proven to cure up to 99% of patients who've had no prior treatment, with 12 weeks. Certain patients can be cured with just 8 weeks of Harvoni. Before starting Harvoni, your doctor will test to see if you've ever had hepatitis B, which may flare up and cause serious liver problems during and after Harvoni treatment. Tell your doctor if you've ever had hepatitis B, a liver transplant, other liver or kidney problems, HIV, or any other medical conditions, and about all the medicines you take, including herbal supplements. Taking amiodarone with Harvoni can cause a serious slowing of your heart rate. Common side effects of Harvoni include tiredness, headache, and weakness.
Ready to let go of Hep C?
Ask your Hep C specialist about Harvoni.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or any other asbestos-related cancer, call now. Asbestos manufacturers sold deadly asbestos materials to thousands of companies, putting workers at risk. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be entitled to a portion of these funds and receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or ever going to court.
For your free legal consultation, call 1-800-348-2601. That's 1-800-348-2601. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Why didn't you just do the investigation as you would normally, with no public announcement?
To restart in a hugely significant way, potentially finding the emails that would reflect on her intent from the beginning and not speak about it would require an act of concealment, in my view. Concealing, in my view, would be catastrophic. This was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election. But honestly, it wouldn't change the decision.
I do think there was a third door available to you in late last year, just before the election, and that was to confirm the existence of an ongoing investigation about the Trump campaign.
My judgment was consistent with the principles I've always operated under. That was the right thing to do.
FBI Director James Comey saying also in that testimony that the, quote, capper for him was when Attorney General Loretta Lynch met with former President Bill Clinton on that tarmac. Then he was asked about some specific information by Senator Chuck Grassley.
The email reportedly provided assurances that Attorney General Lynch would protect Secretary Clinton by making sure the FBI investigation, quote, unquote, didn't go too far. How and when did you first learn of this document? Also, who sent it and who received it?
That's not a question I can answer in this forum, Mr. Chairman, because it would call for a classified response.
Did the FBI interview the person who wrote the email? If not, why not?
I have to give you the same answer. I can't talk about that in an unclassified setting.
So that obviously raised some eyebrows. We're back with the panel. Molly.
Jim Comey is very good at these self-righteous defenses of why he did what he did with regard to the Clintons and also with the Trump campaign. But it was really interesting how many questions he didn't answer. And with he had lots of answers for what happened with the Clinton email situation. But he didn't have a lot of answers about the Russian investigation. And I thought Lindsey Graham had a very deft line of questioning where he asked him, do you still stand by the statement that the Trump campaign wasn't spied on? And he said, absolutely. And he said, did you get a FISA warrant on Carter Page? He's like, I'm not going to answer that question. And he didn't answer it in part, partly because you're not supposed to talk about FISA warrants, but partly because that would completely contradict what had been said. Senator Grassley also mentioned that there were material inconsistencies between what Comey had told him and Dianne Feinstein in private meetings and the information they were getting from the Justice Department. So this was the more interesting part of the hearing from my perspective.
Jonah.
Well, first off, let me say that I am nauseated by Director Comey's misuse of the word nauseous. But more broadly, I'll tell you, the thing that still, I know
Thank you for the grammarian element.
The thing that still I find flabbergasting, and it kind of brought back, it sort of triggered a memory from the campaign that we kind of put away, is why isn't Huma Abedin in jail or in a lot of trouble, and Anthony Weiner? I have friends who have, and family who have intelligence, have security clearance, that would be carted out of the building in handcuffs for doing a fraction of sending, in Comey's words, thousands of emails to Anthony Weiner, who, let's just say, there are things in his life that make him susceptible to manipulation and blackmail. Forward them to be printed out.
Let's listen to that, where he's asked about that moment.
Was there classified information on former Congressman Weiner's computer?
Yes.
Who sent it to him?
His then spouse, Huma Abedin, appears to have had a regular practice of forwarding emails to him, for him, I think, to print out for her, so she could then deliver them to the Secretary of State.
And to Jonah's point, that's strange.
Yeah, and what this hearing did is underscore a couple of things. One is we're still relitigating the election. Both the president is constantly doing that, and Hillary Clinton was out this week, and now we have James Comey. And so that has not exited the stage. And also, you know, there's a growing consent of frustration with Comey on a number of levels, both what he did past during the campaign, from Democrats saying he should have disclosed the Russia investigation, Republicans saying he didn't go far enough with Hillary Clinton for exactly that clip you just showed, and yet he's now in this position where the White House still has confidence in him, and he's in the middle to a certain extent. And you know, I think there's also a general consensus where that among members on the Hill that they're not getting enough information from him, that he's not disclosing, and it's not consistent. And so generally everyone would like for this Russia investigation to wrap up rather quickly, because it's taking up all this time on Capitol Hill. It's a cloud over the White House.
Let me play one soundbite on the Russia side. This is Senator Leahy.
President Trump again said the hacking of the DNC and other efforts to influence the election could have been China, could have been a lot of different groups. Is that contrary to what the intelligence community has said?
We have high confidence that the Russians did the hacking of the DNC and the other organizations.
And he went on to say that he thinks Russia's still involved in American politics.
Well, another thing that was very interesting that was revealed during this hearing was that Fusion GPS, there's a complaint at the Justice Department saying they should have registered as a Russian agent because they were taking money from Russia at the same time they were preparing the dossier against Trump, a dossier that was used to secure a FISA warrant. So yes, Lindsey Graham asked, does this mean that's how they meddled in the election against Donald Trump? That was an explosive thing that came out, and Grassley was making the point. He's asking for more information on Fusion GPS being a Russian agent, failing to register while they were doing this dossier, and he's not getting the information from Comey or the FBI.
Bottom line, we're not done with this. Next up, did Stephen Colbert cross the line in his rant against President Trump?
I accept I'm not the hiker I was. I even accept I have a higher risk of stroke due to AFib, a type of irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. But no matter what path I take, I go for my best. So if there's something better than warfarin, I'll go for that too. Eliquis. Eliquis reduced the risk of stroke better than warfarin, plus had less major bleeding than warfarin. Eliquis had both.
Don't stop taking Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to, as stopping increases your risk of having a stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for any bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
I'm still going for my best. And for Eliquis.
Ask your doctor about Eliquis.
Ray's always been different.
Last year, he said he was going to dig a hole to China.
AT&T is working with farmers to improve irrigation techniques. Remote moisture sensors use a reliable network to tell them when and where to water, so that farmers like Ray can compete in big ways.
China.
Oh, he got there.
That's the power of and.
You were made to move, to progress, to not just accept what you see, but imagine something new. At Invisalign, we use the most advanced teeth straightening technology to help you find the next amazing version of yourself. It's time to unleash your secret weapon. It's there, right under your nose. Get to your best smile up to 50% faster. Visit Invisalign.com to get started today.
At Men's Warehouse, count on our expert stylists to help you find the season's freshest new looks. Buy one, get one free and keep your wardrobe on trend. Then take 30% off all shoes and step out in style. Men's Warehouse.
Why do we insist on 100% Alaskan whitefish? Why do we always hand dip in our famous batter? Cook it to golden perfection and serve it with fries for just $1.99? Because at Long John Silver's, we think you deserve more for $1.99.
Hey, where'd you see that termite? By the wood pile.
Oh, those logs can attract termites. I'll create a termite protection plan that's not only backed by Orkin, but backed by science.
She's bobbing the log, you know what I mean? You bob that log, Candace!
Umbrellas! You need one of these. You wouldn't put up with an umbrella that covers you part way. So when it comes to pain relievers, why put up with just part of a day? Aleve. Live whole, not part.
I want to give it to you for half off.
Mr. Trump, your presidency, I love your presidency. I call it disgrace the nation. The only thing smaller than your hands is your tax returns. And you can take that any way you want. You attract more skinheads than free Rogaine. The only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
Well, that rant has gotten a lot of attention. The White House press secretary says he will not dignify it with a response. CBS has not commented. Neither has the House Speaker, the House Minority Leader. We're back with the panel. Molly.
It's fine to mock presidents, and it's something that should be done, especially noticeable after 8 years of nobody doing that. But you should make sure that you're funny when you do it, and you shouldn't lose your moral high ground when you do it. People are right to criticize the president for his rhetoric and his insults. It's impossible to do that when you actually make him look like a Sunday school teacher by comparison. So it was just disappointing from Colbert, who likes to present himself as a practicing Catholic, who generally tries to find the good in other people. It was not good.
You know, some people, Carol, are pointing to President Obama speaking out about Rush Limbaugh and the Sandra Fluck incident and his call for apology. Your thoughts?
I think, you know, there's plenty of calls for Stephen Colbert to apologize about this, too. You know, you hear these sorts of things from comedians often. You know, they'll go to the line or go over the line. It's not, I think the thing that's startling about this is that it's not necessarily something people expect on network television.
Jonah.
Yeah, and they don't expect on network television in part because they assume that it's a wide audience that doesn't want to be pandered to like some niche left-wing bunch of maroons. And what offends me, I agree entirely with Molly about this, saying free speech, it's a wonderful thing about our country that you can get away with doing this. At the same time, what kind of galls me is the bravery on the cheap about it. I mean, this whole contrived notion that he was rushing to the defense of a CBS family member is nonsense. And there's nothing brave about this. He's pandering to his biggest fans and pretending like it's courageous. It's sort of shabby.
Yes or no? Apology happen? Carol?
I think you'll hear something from him.
A mealy-mouthed one.
I hope so, and I hope it's genuine.
Thank you, panel. No online show tonight. Sorry about that. We'll be back next week. Thanks for inviting us into your home tonight. That's it for this special report. Fair, balanced, and unafraid. The story, hosted by my colleague Martha MacCallum from New York, starts right now.
FBI Director James Comey grilled on the Hill, and in stunning testimony, he says that he felt the Obama Justice Department had no credibility, and that forced his hand.
A number of things had gone on, some of which I can't talk about yet, that made me worry that the department leadership could not credibly complete the investigation and decline prosecution without grievous damage to the American people's confidence in the justice system. And then the capper was, and I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me. And I then said, you know what, the department cannot by itself credibly end this.
So interesting, right? There was a lot of heat in that room today. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha MacCallum, and here's the story on May the 3rd. The art of the deal president needs to win over a restive GOP that is not happy in some quarters. Passage of the health care bill could go a long way towards that goal.
We've been gaining votes today, and that's been a real positive development.
To me, it's a very big amendment that helps close the bill.
And you say close the bill.
Helps close.
Helps close. So you're not quite there yet.
Very close.
We're working on more news in this story. They may vote tomorrow. All that as late night stars Jimmy Kimmel makes a plea for universal coverage, essentially, and he managed to animate the battle lines.
We share that concern for the Kimmel's child, as well as any child that needs care. And that's frankly why the president fought so hard to improve the bill like he did this morning, to make sure that there was that extra layer of protection for anybody with the existing condition, no matter their stage in life.
And how about the spending bill? Very controversial, just passed the House. Some Trump backers are outraged, though. Conservative commentator Ann Coulter declaring, quote, "We want the ruthless businessman we were promised." We will get to all that tonight, but first, our top story this evening, back to FBI Director Jim Comey and his testimony. This was the first time that he spoke about the pre-election decision that he made that put him so much on the hot seat.
And the team also told me we cannot finish this work before the election. And then they worked night after night after night, and they found thousands of new emails. They found classified information on Anthony Weiner. Somehow, her emails are being forwarded to Anthony Weiner, including classified information by her assistant, Huma Abedin. And so they found thousands of new emails, and then called me the Saturday night before the election and said, thanks to the wizardry of our technology, we've only had to personally read 6,000. We think we can finish tomorrow morning, Sunday.
What a story. So Judge Andrew Napolitano here with the potential fallout, but we begin tonight with House Intelligence Committee member Congressman Eric Swalwell on Capitol Hill. Congressman, welcome. Good to have you here today.
Good evening, Martha.
Very interesting back and forth. You're on the Intel Committee. This was the Senate Judiciary Committee that was grilling Comey today. What'd you think?
We're going to hear from Director Comey tomorrow, and you know it's important that we have hearings like this and conduct the oversight that we're charged with. What was most striking for me was when he said that the Russians are still going at us, and so I think that should be a wake-up call for both Republicans and Democrats, that we have a responsibility to do everything we can to make sure that we're never in a position that we find ourselves in right now, which is divided because of interference in an election.
Do you think that that is going to be a bigger topic at your hearing tomorrow? Because some of the criticism today was that there was a lot of backward looking and that there wasn't enough update, or he wasn't forthcoming enough on how that investigation is going.
I'm most interested in what happens next. I want to make sure that the FBI has all of the resources they need to conduct its investigation, and I want to make sure that our committee gets back to being one that's independent, that's credible, and can show progress.
You know, it's interesting, just from the Democrat side for a moment, when you juxtapose something that Hillary Clinton said yesterday with James Comey today. Watch this.
The election been on October 27th, I'd be your president.
This has been one of the world's most painful experiences. I would make the same decision. I would not conceal that on October 28th from the Congress.
So he was saying today that given the magnitude of those emails that they found going through Anthony Weiner's laptop, that the evidence that he was presented with made it impossible for him to say nothing, given the fact that he had already gone down the road far enough to say that there was a lot of negligence, but that there was going to be no prosecution. He felt he needed to update Congress that they were reopening the investigation.
I wish that Hillary Clinton was president today, but right now I think the best thing we can do is look forward and do everything we can to find out what happened with Russia's interference, whether any U.S. persons were responsible, and what we can do to make reforms so we're never in a mess like this again.
All right, so we'll be looking for questions of that nature from you tomorrow. It's interesting that Susan Rice has now said that she will not testify about the unmasking that was done that revealed certain members of the Trump transition team. A lot of people are going to take issue with that.
Well, it's also been an issue that's been debunked, that Susan Rice did anything untoward or illegal. You know, Donald Trump put that out there, we believe, just to obstruct an investigation into his team's ties to Russia. And no evidence has been put forward that she did anything wrong. And so I don't think we need to go on a fishing expedition for something that's not there and not backed up.
I mean, you could say the very same thing about the other side of this investigation, because there's been no evidence that there was collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. So there are people, though, on the other side of your committee who very much want to know why she had the authority to unmask these individuals. I don't understand why you have such a problem with even having her there and asking her those questions, because it could very well be you or someone else on your committee who is unmasked next time, and you might not like it.
And Martha, she certainly had the ability to review intelligence that came across her desk, but there's been not a shred of evidence that she abused it. She would have to prove that there was a national security imperative to do so. And there are legitimate questions about whether or not she had that, or whether it was kind of a fishing expedition to look for dirt on the transition team. I still don't understand why you're not curious about what the answer to that question is. Because I'm not charged with being curious. I'm charged with following the evidence. And actually, what's frustrating, Martha, is that the White House is the only entity in the world that has the power to declassify what she reviewed, and they won't do that. And that should tell you, I think,
they've showed members of Congress. They've showed people on the committees, and you probably had the opportunity to see it as well.
I've been briefed on it, and I am saying, Martha, that if they had evidence that she did anything wrong, I'm sure they would show us.
All right. I think most people want to see a fair hearing for both sides of the concerns that exist on this Russia investigation. Eric Swalwell, thank you very much. Good to see you again, sir.
My pleasure. You too.
Here now, Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to see you as always.
Likewise.
You watched all of this today.
I did.
Comey was grilled. Grassley got upset with him at one point. What did you think about all of it?
I was very upset at the explanations that Director Comey gave. And as you know, for you and our colleagues, I've been watching this and monitoring it and talking about it and writing about it. His first mistake was on July 5th when he told the world that he was recommending to the Justice Department that Mrs. Clinton not be indicted because, quote, no reasonable prosecutor would take the case. That's not a judgment he can make. Then, inexplicably, inconceivably, he outlined all the damning evidence against her, which is so overwhelming it defied the logic of the statement he originally made. Then when he revealed, we all know this history, 2 weeks before Election Day, that they obtained Anthony Weiner's laptop, and they thought there were thousands of emails in there, and they were reopening the investigation. He compounded this. All along, the FBI is investigating whether or not Donald Trump's campaign associates had any connection with the Russians, and Jim Comey quite properly remains silent on that. So by speaking out about one of the investigations and remaining silent on the other, Mrs. Clinton has a legitimate argument. And unlike Congressman Swalwell, I'm happy she's not president, but she has a legitimate argument that the FBI under Jim Comey did the unthinkable. It got involved in a partisan way in a presidential election.
He said that it made him mildly nauseous to think that he may have had any impact, but that he felt that that was the only thing that he could do. One of the dynamics that I thought was so interesting today was that there was sort of an equal opportunity bashing of Jim Comey, because both Democrats and Republicans are nervous that he may not come down on their political side of the fence, whether it be with the Russia investigation.
Right.
Trump says it's a phony investigation into Russia. There's bad blood for both sides based on different moments of Jim Comey's experience. Has he become too political?
Well, he has become political, and because of his personal opinions about Attorney General Lynch, and I share those opinions, and he knows a lot more about her behavior than I did. Instead of acting like an FBI director, which means he's in charge of investigations, he acted like the Attorney General, making final decisions.
She negated her own responsibility by getting on that plane, and he felt that the only thing he could do was to step in.
His job is to silently, quietly hand the evidence over to the leadership of the Justice Department. There are 3 people in the Justice Department between him and Mrs. Lynch, and he bypassed all of them.
Trump says it's a phony investigation into Russia. Is he doing the same thing that President Obama did when he said there was nothing with the IRS and that Hillary Clinton hadn't done anything wrong? Is he wrong to do that?
He shouldn't say that, because we don't know if it's phony. It's been going on for a while, and they haven't produced any evidence. Maybe they'll just silently shut it down, or maybe somebody will be indicted. But until then, we don't know what the FBI has.
Judge, thank you.
You're welcome.
So breaking tonight, Republicans are in tense negotiations right now over health care. Word just coming out moments ago from senior sources on the Hill. This vote could actually happen tomorrow, but we've been down this road before, right? And it's 24 hours to go. Speaker Ryan said that he would only go forward with the vote if he thought he had the numbers to pass it. We're on the verge of major legislative accomplishment, potentially, for the president. Charles Krauthammer is here next on that. Plus the story everybody's talking about, Jimmy Kimmel's emotional plea for health coverage after a personal trauma. Obamacare architect Zeke Emanuel says he is right. Charlie Hurt has called the late-night host a, quote, an elitist creep. He's getting a lot of heat for that. They are here next. Stick around.
If your baby is going to die, and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. I think that's something that, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else, we all agree on that, right? I mean, we do.
This program is brought to you by Cosentyx Secukinumab.
I was always the girl with psoriasis. People don't stare anymore.
I never joined in. It wasn't fair to any of us.
I was covered. I tried lots of things over the years.
But I didn't give up.
I kept on fighting.
I found something that worked.
That still works.
Now, see me.
See me.
I found clear skin that lasts.
See if Cosentyx could make a difference for you. Cosentyx is proven to help people with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis find clear skin that can last. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting Cosentyx, you should be checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you've received a vaccine or plan to. If you have inflammatory bowel disease, tell your doctor if symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions may occur.
See me to know.
Clear skin can last.
Don't hold back. Ask your dermatologist if Cosentyx can help you find clear skin that lasts.
Ray's always been different.
Last year, he said he was going to dig a hole to China.
AT&T is working with farmers to improve irrigation techniques. Remote moisture sensors use a reliable network to tell them when and where to water, so that farmers like Ray can compete in big ways.
China.
Oh, he got there.
That's the power of and.
Lights are on, revs are coming up.
This is the ultra-responsive Acura TLX with precision all-wheel steer. And this is how we make it. Visit your local Acura dealer for our lowest drive-off offers on the 2017 Acura TLX.
At Panera, a salad is so much more than one thing. More than one flavor, or texture, or color. A good, clean salad is so much more than green. And with Panera Catering, more for your event. Panera, food as it should be.
Traffic is backed up. There's an accident on the freeway that hasn't been cleared yet.
When heartburn hits, fight back fast with Tums Smoothies. It starts dissolving the instant it touches your tongue and neutralizes stomach acid at the source. Smoothies, only from Tums.
Watch Fox News Channel anytime, anywhere. Fox News Go.
I am totally blind. And I live with Non-24, a circadian rhythm disorder that can throw my days and nights out of sync, keeping me from the people, places, and things I love. The people I love have always been there for me. And now, I'm there for them too. Talk to your doctor and call 844-214-2424 to learn more.
If you or a loved one underwent hernia surgery between 2010 and 2016 and then suffered serious complications, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Complications associated with FISOMesh include chronic pain, infection, adhesions, mesh migration, reopening of the hernia, and other serious injuries. Call right now.
Call 1-800-554-8301. That's 1-800-554-8301.
So breaking just moments ago, a senior source on Capitol Hill is telling Fox News that the vote on the revised GOP health care bill is very likely to happen tomorrow. Dr. Charles Krauthammer will be with us in just moments to react to this. But first, let's go to Peter Doocy, get you all the news from Capitol Hill, where they're hammering this out, apparently. We've heard this before. Peter, is it really going to happen this time?
It looks like it may happen tomorrow, Martha. The latest word officially from Republican leaders is that they have been gaining votes throughout the day. One chief of staff just told our Capitol Hill producer, Chad Pergram, they think that the vote total is on the button right now. And if you rewind the tape a couple hours, it looks like the dominoes started falling this morning when a pair of Republicans who wanted their party's Obamacare replacement to do more to protect people with pre-existing conditions sold President Trump on an idea that would do that, using $8 billion that was already in the bill. The leaders of that effort were Congressman Billy Long and Congressman Fred Upton, who told me the president agreed to their terms.
He, accepted what we were trying to do and knew that we were trying to constructively improve the process. And at the end of the day, I think that it can bring enough votes to pass, which we're likely to see probably tomorrow.
Every time something changes with this bill, it either loses conservative support or it loses moderate support, and some moderates remain unmoved. They're going to vote no, but one very influential member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus told me his group is still behind the bill.
While this is not full repeal, it's the best we think we can get out of the House. We're willing to support it and then keep working for full repeal.
So you think it's still going to have the full Freedom Caucus endorsement?
I do.
The Vice President, Mike Pence, was on the Hill today for a couple hours. So was the HHS Secretary Tom Price. They were pressuring members to support this bill. And just while that Jim Jordan soundbite was playing, Martha, we got confirmation there is going to be a vote tomorrow on the American Health Care Act. That is the latest word from leadership that just spent the last 2.5 hours in Speaker Ryan's office behind me. While that soundbite was playing, they came out, they said, they're going to try it tomorrow. They think they had the votes.
That's what we call breaking news. Nicely done. Peter, thank you very much. Big information tonight on the health care bill. A vote tomorrow. So joining us now, nationally syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor, Dr. Charles Krauthammer joins us. Charles, always good to see you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
So it sounds like they're there, although last time it sounded like they were there and they weren't there. And he also said that it sounds like they basically are exactly at the vote they need. So they may be in a situation where they can't lose even one. Your thoughts?
Well, look, it's good news to hear that they may actually call the vote tomorrow because, as Paul Ryan had said, if they're not going to call the vote if the votes aren't there. I mean, they think they are there. Look, I think this is a major achievement. I would have said so an hour or two ago before we knew this was certain. The major achievement is this. This administration, working with this Congress, has managed to achieve in less than 4 months what the Republicans were unable to do in 6 years. For 6 years, they railed against Obamacare. They said they would repeal it and replace it without, as we now know, having a clue how they were going to do it. And they were not that sincere about it, it turns out.
Yeah.
People like Fred Upton, who supported the bills to repeal when they knew it would be vetoed by Obama, all of a sudden, when it could be signed into law, got cold feet and didn't support it. I think this is a major achievement to find a consensus replacement for a very fractious and divided Republican caucus, and I think it's a cause for celebration among Republicans, even if, as I think is likely, the Senate won't go along with it.
We just want to let people know that Kevin McCarthy just confirmed that there will be a vote. It's going to happen tomorrow, he says, between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. That's when it's going to get started anyway. Charles, you make a great point, which is that it's been so long since we've seen this kind of function in the government where we see things getting hammered out. Now, albeit it's all on the Republican side, but they have the majority and they've been roundly criticized for not getting anything done in the first 100 days, and it sounds like they're getting there now. But you also mentioned that we also have sort of crossed the Rubicon. We are now a country that expects there to be health care available to everyone, and that's a new place for this country to be. The government is now in the health care business, and it looks like they're there to stay.
I think that's the real story of this drama. The real story is that over these 7 years, Obamacare has been largely influential and has had this success, maybe not on the ground in the real world with the premium problems and all that, but it has changed the zeitgeist. It has changed. So the underlying assumption in the country that the government should guarantee in the end that everybody will get health care. That did not exist before 2010. And I think the idea that some Republicans still have that health care is a commodity like any other, should be allocated by price, it's all a matter of choice. I think that is such a minority position now. That's why you got the revolt from the moderate conservative Republicans in the House. They were getting the message from their constituents that something has changed regarding medical care, and you saw it in the reaction to the Jimmy Kimmel episode. People expect overwhelmingly that in the end, everybody gets the care. Now, once that happens in the country, all the calculations have to change. That's why we had 100 days of this fractiousness and argument among Republicans. But I think we're at a new place, and Republicans are coming to terms with the fact that the repeal of the Obamacare idea, the idea that everybody should get health care one way or the other, right, that's not going to happen.
Well, it's hard to take away an entitlement. Once you've rolled it out,
exactly
it almost
right.
never, ever happens.
It
so
never
they're trying to make the best of it, I guess, from their perspective, and they're going to vote tomorrow. Charles, thank you very much. Good to see you, sir.
My pleasure.
So just ahead, America First explained. Today, Rex Tillerson laid out the Trump foreign policy doctrine, and he is out there working to bring it to fruition. And let me tell you, it is boldly different. It is very, very blunt. You will hear his words when General Jack Keane joins us moments away. Also, you just heard Charles mention this. Jimmy Kimmel delivered an emotional monologue about his newborn son. So why is Charlie Hurt calling the late-night host a, quote, elitist creep? He and what Kimmel said about the coverage, is that actually true? The architect of Obamacare, Dr. Zeke Emanuel, tells us what would happen to a baby whose family couldn't pay if they turned purple in the hospital, as happened to the Kimmel family, when we come back.
Let's stop with the nonsense. This isn't football. There are no teams. We are the team. It's the United States. Don't let their partisan squabbles divide us on something every decent person wants.
I thought I was managing my moderate to severe Crohn's disease. I didn't think there was anything else to talk about. But then I realized there was. So I finally broke the silence with my doctor about what I was experiencing. He said Humira is for people like me who've tried other medications but still experience the symptoms of moderate to severe Crohn's disease. In clinical studies, the majority of patients on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieved remission.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
If you're still just managing your symptoms, talk with your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
My heart beats 100,000 times a day, sending oxygen to my muscles. Again! So I can lift even the most demanding weights.
Take care of all your most important parts with Centrum. Now verified non-GMO and gluten-free.
I could tell right away ZipRecruiter was going to make hiring a lot easier.
Go to ZipRecruiter.com and post to over 100 job boards with one click. Then easily select the best candidates from one list. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/Fox.
Have you ever looked for a hotel online? Well, Trivago does the work for you and instantly compares the prices of over 600,000 hotels from over 200 different websites. That's how you can be sure that you find the ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
Millions of homeowners trust HomeAdvisor to find top-rated home repair and improvement pros.
We use HomeAdvisor for all our home projects.
Any project.
Big or small.
You just tell them what you need.
And you get instantly connected with a pro who can do the job.
It's completely free to use.
Go to HomeAdvisor.com.
Would you like to be a Publishers Clearinghouse winner next month?
This is amazing.
You could win $2 million plus $10,000 a month for life and a new car. Go to PCH.com and enter. June 30th, you could win it all.
I dropped 40 pounds on Jenny Craig.
Now lose 15 pounds for $15. Jenny Craig helps you lose 3 times more weight than dieting on your own. Enjoy more than 100 ready-to-go premium meals and snacks.
It was the perfect balance of great taste and weight loss.
Call now to get $50 in free food.
When it's time to get serious, it's time for Jenny Craig.
Call now and lose 15 pounds for $15, plus $50 in free food and free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last long.
Introducing Proper Shirts from Charles Tyrwhitt. 100% cotton, the finest detailing. Quality British design shirts. In our opinion, the best shirts in the world. And for a limited time only, you can buy 3 Charles Tyrwhitt shirts for just $99, saving over $200, plus free shipping. Try one. You'll never go back. Charles Tyrwhitt. For proper shirts.
Allergy symptoms distracting you? Doctors recommend taking Claritin every day of your allergy season for continuous relief. Claritin provides powerful, non-drowsy 24-hour relief for fewer interruptions from the amazing things you do every day. Live Claritin Clear every day.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
Moments ago, Kevin McCarthy walking through the halls of Capitol Hill, nodding, yes, it's going to happen. He says tomorrow the vote will be at 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We will be watching that closely. Big, big news tonight from Capitol Hill. And now to this, also the story that we have talked about, the powerful late-night TV moment that perhaps led to some of the concessions to moderates on this health care redo because there was so much focus on it. Jimmy Kimmel revealing that his newborn son needed emergency surgery at Cedars-Sinai. Look how cute he is. At the medical center in Los Angeles. His life was saved by doctors and nurses, prompting this emotional plea on his show.
Before 2014, if you were born with congenital heart disease like my son was, there was a good chance you'd never be able to get health insurance because you had a pre-existing condition. You were born with a pre-existing condition. If your parents didn't have medical insurance, you might not live long enough to even get denied because of a pre-existing condition. If your baby is going to die, and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. I think that's something that, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else, we all agree on that, right? I mean, we do. And let's stop with the nonsense. This isn't football. There are no teams. We are the team. It's the United States. Don't let their partisan squabbles divide us on something every decent person wants. We need to take care of each other.
So those comments prompted this Washington Post headline. The GOP has no good answer for Jimmy Kimmel, says the Post. In moments, we'll hear from Charlie Hurt, who says that Kimmel is acting like an elitist creep. He will defend those comments in a moment. But first, Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, known as the architect of Obamacare. He is also a Fox News contributor. Doctor, good to see you today. You know,
nice to be here.
What I would like you to take us through is whether or not the second part of what Jimmy Kimmel said, and we all sympathize, any parent who has been through the frightening and joyful experience of having a child and wanting to make sure everything is okay feels for what he and his family went through, there's no doubt. But in terms of whether or not it would have been different, just the facts, beforehand, you know, when a baby is born, if his family is destitute and the baby's in the hospital and the baby starts, God forbid, turning purple, they don't walk away from that baby. They do surgery on that baby, regardless of the insurance situation, correct?
First of all, let's be clear. Yes, first of all, the mother might have been in a very different hospital than Cedars-Sinai, and so the quality of the hospital would have been affected.
Well, that's true under Obamacare or not under Obamacare.
Let me just finish.
Go ahead.
The second thing is the idea of transporting the baby to Children's Hospital might have been different. And we do know, just as a matter of fact, actually, that people are treated differently by their insurance status. There was a study done by a Professor Doyle out of MIT that looked at accident victims in Wisconsin, and there was a very big difference in outcome as to whether you had an insurance you were insured or uninsured, and the uninsured people actually died more frequently. We also have data from the American Cancer Society.
Let me just jump in. I understand what you're saying.
Let me just finish.
You're going into a lot of different scenarios, and just for the purposes of this discussion, because we only have a few minutes, I want to talk about a baby in a hospital. Because what happens is, even before Obamacare, in fact, insurance companies added newborn infants at standard rates.
You would like to narrow, your
regardless
case.
of the. I'm just saying that we all felt for what he was saying, Doctor. But I want people to understand that there's no, mean being out there who's not going to help a child who is just born hours before if they are in dire need. And is that correct?
It's very interesting how you want to narrow the case. Remember Arizona.
I'm just talking about the story.
A few years ago. I'm about to explain something. Arizona, a few years ago, decided that they were going to take away coverage for Medicaid patients for life-saving bone marrow transplants for children. And in fact, some children died. Oregon ended up doing the same thing. So the idea that we don't take care away, life-saving care away from children because of their insurance status, whether it's Medicaid or being uninsured. Your point is just wrong. We do that, and I think Jimmy Kimmel was making a very accurate claim that your insurance, that whether
you're
got
saying
insurance
that
or
although
not,
I'm right about this case, there are other cases where there's concerns, and I hear you, and we all want children who are in these situations to be taken care of. But the other point that you made about what Obamacare is not going to cover someone to move to Cedars-Sinai or to move to Children's Hospital. I mean, that's
Excuse me. You're not factually correct.
I've been factually correct all throughout, but go ahead.
Half the people who got coverage have private insurance and often go to Cedars-Sinai. Cedars-Sinai takes patients with Medicaid as well.
That's right.
And the fact that, let me just finish, the fact is what services are covered do make a difference, and the uninsured, we know, have had a higher mortality rate, in part for many reasons, but in part because of that insurance status, even in emergency circumstances like the one you're identifying.
Right. But thank God, I think we can all agree that in this situation, any baby would be given care by the good doctors who would be in the hospital where the child is. I got to leave it there.
Jimmy Kimmel's claim that your insurance status can determine the kind of medical care you get even in a hospital turns out factually, when you look at the data, to be true.
He wants to make sure they're covered, and so do all of us.
Situation is whether you have good insurance or not good insurance, and that is the situation.
And everybody,
if you would like to, if you'd like to look at only one case when we have 310 million Americans.
Oh, here, whatever. So because we're discussing this case specifically, and Jimmy Kimmel's comments touched off a firestorm, including this Washington Times opinion piece by our next guest, who writes that Kimmel, quote, wants you to know that if you are not for bloated federal bureaucracy, socialized medicine, higher taxes, and tons of more debt piled onto your grandchildren, then you are not a decent person. Actually, Jim, writes Charles Hurt, if you were a decent person, you would shut your fat trap about partisan politics and go care for your kid who just nearly died, you elitist creep. Charlie Hurt, newly minted Loser of the Week by Mediaite, and normally a nice person, joins us now. Charlie, I could just, was your head popping off last night when you were writing this? I mean, this is very, very harsh, given what this family went through.
Sure, but so is taking your ill child and inserting that child into the public arena and using them as a prop to push partisan political politics. I find that to be disgusting personally. Now, as you pointed out a minute ago, everybody, no matter what your position on Obamacare is, I think everybody wants to find a way for the children, all people, but specifically children like this, to get covered. The debate is about how do we do that. And for Jimmy Kimmel to use his position and to use the terrible situation that was heart-wrenching for anybody that listened to it, to take that and to jump the rails and to go into partisan politics with it, and then it's kind of like a bully who wants to just shut down debate, and he
could say the same thing about you, and it's his show.
Okay,
he has freedom of speech. He has the ability to stand up there and give his opinion about it, as do you. That's a
fair point.
But so is it right to call him an elitist creep based on his opinion?
That's a fair point. But I am not, again, I am not taking a child and dragging them into this debate and then looking at everybody that disagrees with me politically and says, you don't like my child, you don't care about my child. That's no way to solve this. This is a very complicated debate. We want to figure out how to get. I would like everyone to be covered. I would like everyone to get well. But relying on the federal. I don't think he was pointing the finger at people and saying, you don't want my child to be covered.
But I do think that in many of these cases, there's much more emotion, and his emotion was rightly placed. I'm not making any comment on that. But in terms of coverage in healthcare, because my first question was, is that true? And that's what I was trying to get at with Zeke Emanuel. Is it true? Because none of us want to live in a country where someone's going to walk away from a baby who's turning purple at a hospital and let them die. And that is not the case. That is not what happens. I've talked to doctors. I read about the rules and the laws on this all day today. This is not what happens in America.
And ironically, that's part of what the problem that we have is because a hospital cannot turn away a child. We have, and
you're not saying that they should be able to.
No, but what I'm saying is that because of that, we sort of have de facto socialized medicine in this country.
That's what Charles Crowder and I were just saying.
And because of that, we are doing it in a very ineffective way. But inserting this sort of thing into a hot political partisan debate, I don't think helps anything.
As I said, normally a very nice person. This week's Mediaite Loser of the Week, lambasted today for this comment. But thank you. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for talking about it, Charlie. Good to see you. All right, so you know that the resist movement is strong, and there is a lot of money that is backing it. So now you've got former President Obama and former presidential nominee Hillary Clinton forming different entities to battle for who is the leader of the future party, who can pull in the most donors. This could get interesting, my friends. Charlie Hurt's going, I promise. Chris Darwalt's here, though. Mercedes Schlapp is here, and Crystal Ball is here to weigh in on that. Plus, what does America First really mean on the world stage when it comes to things like human rights? Rex Tillerson is speaking out about where the White House is with the priority list these days. General Jack Keane joins us next.
Why pause a spontaneous moment? Cialis for daily use treats ED and the urinary symptoms of BPH. Tell your doctor about your medicines and ask if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Do not take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain or Adempas for pulmonary hypertension, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Do not drink alcohol in excess. To avoid long-term injury, get medical help right away for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have a sudden decrease or loss of hearing or vision or an allergic reaction, stop taking Cialis and get medical help right away. Ask your doctor about Cialis.
At Red Lobster Seafood Trios, you don't have to choose just one thing. Choose your trio with any 3 of 9 selections for $15.99. Like new creamy lobster pasta, toasted Parmesan shrimp, and Southern-style crab cakes. Come create your trio before it ends.
Are you ready to see results fast?
Stay tuned for a limited-time special offer from Nutrisystem.
I'm Marie, and I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Be one of the first 500 callers and get an activity tracker free.
I'm Melissa Joan Hart, and I lost 40 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Lose weight fast with Nutrisystem's Lean 13. Lose up to 13 pounds and 7 inches overall in your first month. Lose weight fast. Money back guaranteed.
I lost 30 pounds. 48 pounds gone.
Order your 28-day plan right now and we'll rush you Lean 13. Get 1 week of NutriCrush bars to crush cravings free. And 1 week of Turbo Shakes to help bust belly bloat free. Plus FedEx shipping free. Don't forget, be one of the first 500 callers and get an activity tracker free. Track your steps, miles, and sleep. A $75 value, yours free.
There's never been a better time to get started.
Call 877-913-FIRM right now and get Lean 13 with Activity Tracker free.
Dear Fresh Pet, I was in the Air Force and got seriously hurt. It was the worst time in my life until I met Tank. You really could say he's a rescue dog. So when he got heavy and his energy slumped, it was my turn to be there for him. That's when I found Fresh Pet. He seemed to love it, and sure enough, he got down to his ideal weight. Fresh Pet put the puppy back in my dog and gave me back my best friend.
Guess what? She just got more shoes from JustFab. Every month, shoes, more shoes, delivered for free. Does that seem crazy to you? Why do you need so many JustFab shoes?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Because I work hard, it's my money, they're only $39.95, and they make me happy.
Those are good reasons. I was just...
Go make some dinner.
Go to JustFab.com. Thousands of styles for just $39.95 plus free shipping. And now, buy one, get one free. Only at JustFab.com.
When someone truly believes in you, you can achieve great things. Like hitting the game-winning home run. Or graduating first in your class. At Loan Depot, we believe in helping you achieve the American dream of owning a home.
Congratulations.
Loan Depot is the only lender that provides critical illness coverage which you can use to pay your mortgage payments, up to $30,000 in case you're unable to work. It's peace of mind when life gets difficult.
That's impressive.
And if interest rates ever drop, you can refinance with us at any time without paying any lender closing costs. So call, log on, or visit your local neighborhood branch today. There's no cost or obligation to see just how easy it is to get an approval for your home purchase. Put our nationwide team of over 6,000 to work for you. Loan Depot, we believe in you.
But Grandma, we use Charmin Ultra Soft, so we don't have to wad to get clean.
Charmin Ultra Soft gets you clean without the wasteful wadding. It has comfort cushions you can see that are softer and more absorbent, and you can use up to 4 times less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Some new clarity today from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson on just what the Trump administration's America First notion means when it comes to who we are looking out for. With Syria, North Korea, and Russia all looking to expand their influence by any means necessary, Tillerson offering this candid assessment about how he sees our role now around the globe.
So let's talk first about my view of how you translate America First into our foreign policy. Look, things have gotten out of balance. And these are really important relationships to us, and they're really important alliances, but we got to bring them back into balance. Guiding all of our foreign policy actions are our fundamental values. Our values around freedom, human dignity, the way people are treated. Those are our values. Those are not our policies. They're values. At the end of it, it is strengthening our national security and promoting economic prosperity for the American people.
Joining me now, General Jack Keane, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. This sounds like the sort of clarification and the expression of what the Trump doctrine is shaping up to look like. Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this will play out over time, and I don't think there'll ever be a Trump doctrine written down, but there will be a national security strategy that H.R. McMaster is crafting. What I see us happening is clearly we are reassuring our allies. All the high government officials have gone around the world to do that and let them know that we stand behind them. We're supporting these alliances. We want you to burden share with us. We don't want to pay the disproportionate part of the funding for all of this, but we got your back. And that really is a reaction to the Obama administration, who truly aggravated and frustrated our allies because they didn't believe the United States still had their back. The second thing, he mentioned our adversaries, the 3 of them. One of the problems we have with the Obama administration, many people felt he catered more to our adversaries than he did to our allies, and I think there's some truth to that. I don't want to overstate it, but there is some truth to it. What Tillerson is saying is that, we're looking at our adversaries clear-eyed, and their departure from just engaging our allies, our adversaries, like the Obama administration did, we're going to confront them. And they're doing that in North Korea. They're doing that in Syria, which means not just Syria in terms of the Assad regime, but the Iranians and the Russians there. And we're calling out the Russians for their horrific behavior. Those are the different anchor posts that I see that are taking place that's truly different from what we experienced the last 8 years.
All right. Let's listen to Rex Tillerson here for a moment. Some more from him.
It's a pressure campaign that has a knob on it. I'd say we're at about dial setting 5 or 6 right now. So we're trying to be very, very clear and resolute in our message to them that your future security and economic prosperity can only be achieved through your following your commitments to denuclearize.
So that was Rex Tillerson. Sorry, I lost my audio, but I was able to hear the soundbite, Jack. But, talk to me about what he means by it's a pressure campaign that has a knob on it with North Korea, and now we're at about dial 5 or 6. Very interesting.
Yeah, he's talking about an escalating campaign where we've given the ball to China to impose leverage on the North Koreans. They've stopped the import of coal. They're considering cutting off oil to North Korea. If they do that, that would be a staggering move on their part, and clearly something that would impact North Korea. We're imposing sanctions ourselves, and we have clearly told our allies and the North Koreans that a military option is on the table, and I think people know that's credible.
Jack, thank you very much. General Jack Keane joining us tonight. So coming up next, the 2 biggest names in Democratic politics return to the public stage as Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton look to exert their respective influence over the party's politics. Chris Direwalt, Mercedes Schlapp, and Crystal Ball debate the impact and who may be the winner in that interesting face-off when we come back.
Home is where we kick off our shoes. But when family members forget, trust Angie's List to help. Visit angieslist.com today.
I got a mortgage offer from the bank today.
What?
You never just get one offer. Go to LendingTree.com and shop multiple loan offers for free.
Free?
Yeah, could save thousands. You should probably buy me dinner.
No.
Go to LendingTree.com for a new home loan or refinance. Receive up to 5 free offers and choose the loan that's right for you. Our average customer could lower their monthly bills by over $300. Rates could rise again. Go to LendingTree.com right now.
I do. Who says a pool can't be in the sky? I do it. Who says a living room can't be in a pool? Who says a 5-star luxury vacation can't be all-inclusive? Sandals La Source Grenada takes innovations beyond the realm of imagination. Experience the sandals of tomorrow today. Call 1-800-SANDALS.
Well, finished.
You wouldn't want your painter to quit partway.
Think you missed a spot.
So when it comes to pain relievers, why put up with just part of a day? Aleve. Live whole, not part.
You want this color over the whole house.
Tucker takes on BuzzFeed.
You're picking, no, because you're picking the most ludicrous example.
After a heated round one, it's the must-see rematch you don't want to miss tonight.
If you've ever considered getting a walk-in tub, we have great news.
No more cold seats. For a limited time, when you purchase a Safe Step walk-in tub, we'll upgrade your order to include our newest feature, a heated seat.
That's a $600 value. Free.
But that's not all. The new and improved dual hydrotherapy system now has foot massaging jets to help soothe aching feet.
And as always, Safe Step walk-in tubs are built to maximize safety so you can stay in your home and enjoy the comforts of bathing again.
Call the number on your screen now for more information and a free, no-obligation consultation.
Our new walk-in tub is affordable and could change your life.
Thousands of people just like you are already enjoying the safety and luxury comfort of their Safe Step walk-in tub. Financing is available, so call 1-800-722-6464. That's 1-800-722-6464. You deserve it. Call and get yours today.
I no longer live with the uncertainties of Hep C, wondering, what if? I let go of all those feelings because I am cured with Harvoni.
Harvoni is a revolutionary treatment for the most common type of chronic hepatitis C. It's been prescribed to more than 250,000 people and is proven to cure up to 99% of patients who've had no prior treatment with 12 weeks. Certain patients can be cured with just 8 weeks of Harvoni. Before starting Harvoni, your doctor will test to see if you've ever had hepatitis B, which may flare up and cause serious liver problems during and after Harvoni treatment. Tell your doctor if you've ever had hepatitis B, a liver transplant, other liver or kidney problems, HIV, or any other medical conditions, and about all the medicines you take, including herbal supplements. Taking amiodarone with Harvoni can cause a serious slowing of your heart rate. Common side effects of Harvoni include tiredness, headache, and weakness.
Ready to let go of Hep C?
Ask your Hep C specialist about Harvoni.
We are back. So the Democratic Party at a bit of a crossroads tonight as they continue to struggle to find their path after the last election. So now you've got two familiar faces who are now stealing the spotlight, kind of coming back onto the scene as the former president, Barack Obama, moves forward with his foundation that he's establishing, and new reports that Hillary Clinton is launching her own PAC. So who will wield more political power, because you know they're going to be tapping into some of the same wells, the two-time presidential winner or the two-time presidential loser? Chris Darwalt, Fox News digital politics editor, and Mercedes Schlapp is a Republican strategist and Fox News contributor. Crystal Ball is a senior fellow at the New Leaders Council. Welcome to all of you up there on our big chandelier. Good to see you all tonight. So, you know, we usually do the quote of the night at the end of the show, but my good friend Chris Darwalt said something that I thought was so quote-worthy that we are going to do it right now. So, Chris, you basically were talking about whether or not Hillary Clinton should fade from the scene, and you said decency would compel most politicians to have mercy on a party they failed so lavishly. Clinton couldn't even summon the same level of circumspection as Al Gore, who, despite heroic levels of ego, was at least ashamed enough to grow a beard after he lost.
Lord, I'm as mean as Charlie Hurt. I can't believe I wrote that.
It's hard to be as mean as Charlie Hurt, Chris, but you are entering the competition. So what do you think? As they both do try, and I also think it's interesting to point out that President Obama is starting a foundation. I don't know if he's going to use that word to name it because it might sort of bring up some of the memories of the Clinton Foundation that, didn't always have the best connotation in the last election. Chris, you go first.
I think so far President Obama, former President Obama, deserves the benefit of the doubt on this. He seems to be trying to fulfill the role that his predecessors did, certainly what President Bush did for him in large form, which is to not be part of the day-to-day. Obama seems to be working hard here. In his first public comments, he elevated. He didn't talk about Donald Trump. He didn't talk about hard policy issues. He talked in generalities. And I think he deserves credit so far that he is trying to adopt that approach, which is very different, obviously, than Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Crystal, what do you think? When you look at the future of the party, the Democratic Party, who do you think sort of deserves to stick around, deserves to get people to give them money? They're all going to make a ton of money. We know that President Obama's got a $400,000 speaking engagement from a Wall Street firm. Who's going to sort of be the leader, the standard bearer of this party?
I mean, to be honest with you, as much as I respect both of them in terms of their careers in public service, I don't think either President Obama or Hillary Clinton needs to be the future of the Democratic Party. We have not only lost the 2016 election, we lost over 1,000 state legislative seats over the past 6 years because we've really failed to offer a big enough economic vision to deal with the massive changes facing the country. So I'm looking to people like Bernie Sanders. I'm looking to people like Congressman Tim Ryan from Youngstown, Ohio, who aren't afraid of thinking big, of thinking bold, of thinking outside the box. And frankly, I don't want anyone who's pulling down six figures for Wall Street speeches to be the future of the Democratic Party. Of course, we're going to love Barack Obama. Of course, he's going to have a role. Re-elected, first African-American president, healthcare reform, banking reform, all of those things. But we've got to look to the future and to new voices.
Okay. I want to put up a quote from Tom Perez because this has become an issue for the Democratic Party, whether or not they should include people who are pro-life. A lot of Catholics fall into that group. He said every Democrat, like every American, should support a woman's right to make her own choice about her body and her health. That is not negotiable and should not change city by city or state by state. But Mercedes, now you have Nancy Pelosi speaking out about this and saying that she does, and she's a Catholic, believe that there ought to be room in the Democrat Party for people who are pro-life.
Well, I think that it's clear that the Democrat Party has become the abortion party. It's the one issue where they have focused on and taken it to an extreme position. I mean, so many Democrats voted against supporting the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which was one of those issues that most Americans agree on. And so I do think that it's very fascinating to watch the Democrats being those who want to exclude pro-lifers when you're talking that 51% of Americans self-identify themselves as pro-life individuals. So I find it to be just shocking that the Democrats have decided that there's no room in the party for Democrats who support pro-life positions.
Chris, how's that going to go over politically? And do they need to, do they need to widen the tent for people who are pro-life in the Democrat Party? There used to be lots of them in the Democrat Party. Politically, how does this play for them?
Well, look, Democrats do have a sound chance to win back the House next year. They could be in a very good position to do that. If they want to do it, they're going to do it with candidates that match their districts. They're not going to do it by trying to impose their view on these districts. They're going to find candidates who match up. And we saw that in the special election in Atlanta. We're seeing that in a special election that's going on in South Carolina. Democrats have to say, look, you can get certain kind of people elected in South Carolina. You can get other kind of people elected in the middle of Missouri. Yeah. You got to have candidates that match. And on the issue of life, if Democrats are so exclusionary as to say that they won't allow for pro-choice, for pro-life Democrats, then they're going to leave seats on the table and they're going to make it that much harder to take back the House.
Crystal, they wouldn't allow the Women's March to have groups that were pro-life. Is this something they need to change?
Well, the Women's March is different than the Democratic Party as a whole, and what Nancy Pelosi knows and what's demonstrated in that quote is when we passed health care reform, we had close to 40 pro-life Democrats in the House. Yep. So Chris is absolutely right. If we want to be serious about a 50-state strategy, we've got to allow people to channel their communities, particularly on abortion and on guns.
Thank you.
We
all.
need to be focused on economics and let people channel their communities.
Back after this.
Looking for balance in your digestive system? Try Align Probiotic. For a non-stop, sweet treat goodness, hold on to your Tiara kind of day. Get 24/7 digestive support with Align, the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand, also in kids' chewables.
Would you like to be a Publishers Clearinghouse winner next month?
Wow.
Get ready, because now you could win $2 million immediately, plus $10,000 a month for life, and a new car. It's the new Win It All prize, and it could be yours. $2 million plus $10,000 a month for lifelong financial security and a new car.
Oh my goodness!
Watch your mail or go to PCH.com right now and enter. Don't miss out. June 30th, you could win it all.
Saving up to 95% on their prescriptions with Blink Health has people talking.
I have saved already $320 now. There's a lot of things that one can do at $320.
Stop overpaying for your prescriptions. Go to BlinkHealth.com today.
Dry mouth? Use Smart Mouth with Moisture Lock technology. It's the only dry mouth rinse that relieves bad breath for 12 hours with only one use.
Available at drugstores, supermarkets, and elsewhere.
Get to Golden Corral for our Meat Lovers Spectacular. On weekdays, enjoy portobello mushroom sirloin, tender baby back ribs, and more. Choose from over 150 buffet favorites, all for one low price. It's the Meat Lovers Spectacular, only at Golden Corral.
The average traveler visits loads of different websites before booking their hotel. That's fair enough. You want to make sure you get a great hotel for the best price. There are so many websites out there. How can you visit them all? Well, before you book, check on Trivago. Trivago instantly compares prices from more than 250 websites and apps. And that's how Trivago finds your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
It's time to get smart about home security. Introducing Floodlight Cam by Ring, a motion-activated security light with an HD camera.
Don't even think about it.
That lets you know when anyone steps on your property. Illuminate every corner of your home with a ring of security. Smart enough to detect people and objects.
Hey, girls. Hi, Dad.
With Floodlight Cam, you can stop crime before it happens. Protecting your home has never been easier. Now that's security in a whole new light. Available at ring.com.
I dropped 40 pounds on Jenny Craig.
Now lose 15 pounds for $15. Jenny Craig helps you lose 3 times more weight than dieting on your own. Enjoy more than 100 ready-to-go premium meals and snacks.
It was the perfect balance of great taste and weight loss.
Call now to get $50 in free food.
When it's time to get serious, it's time for Jenny Craig.
Call now and lose 15 pounds for $15, plus $50 in free food and free shipping. Hurry, this offer won't last long.
Home Advisor is a very easy way to find a home contractor, and for me, it's the only way.
Home Advisor instantly connects you with top-rated pros for any type of home project.
If you need it, Home Advisor has it.
And it's completely free. Go to homeadvisor.com now.
The Five dominates debate.
I don't agree.
Total hypocrisy.
With anything that you say.
And they're holding nothing back.
What lengths were they willing to go to?
No one's accountable. It's not saying a whole lot. Why do I care?
That's why The Five owns the hour, weeknights at 9 Eastern.
You have a list of things. None of those things say wander around a warehouse looking for somebody to help you, or walk out not knowing if you got exactly what you need. Nope, you have a list of things, and Ace has them, from the brands you trust. We also have people like Pete who ask the right questions to make sure you get everything you need. Because at Ace, we have our own list, and great service is at the top.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
So tonight we leave you with this plea from the New York Post's John Podhoretz, who is calling on Americans to slow down and to marvel for just a moment at the brighter things that the world has to offer. Everyday miracles, he points out, like this one that he highlights, a baby fitted for a hearing aid and hearing his mom and dad for the very first time.
Hi.
Gorgeous. Oh, look.
Hi.
He's smiling. Lachlan. Hello. Hello, darling. Oh, look, he's smiling.
love that smile. We want to leave you on a positive note. That's the story tonight. See you tomorrow at 7. Tucker Carlson's next.
Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. FBI Director James Comey was back on Capitol Hill today, this time to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Democrats on that committee grilled him over his behavior in last fall's election. In response, the director acknowledged that his actions may have played some role in causing Donald Trump to win, and he said that possibility made him feel sick.
Look, this was terrible. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election. But honestly, it wouldn't change the decision. Everybody who disagrees with me has to come back to October 28th with me and stare at this and tell me what you would do. Would you speak or would you conceal? And I could be wrong, but we honestly made a decision between those two choices that even in hindsight, and this has been one of the world's most painful experiences, I would make the same decision. I would not conceal that.
Hillary Clinton can identify with that feeling of nausea. She seems to have decided she would have won easily last fall if it had not been for the meddling of James Comey. She said this yesterday.
If the election had been on October 27th, I'd be your president. But I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me but got scared off.
So did the FBI director scuttle the Hillary candidacy? And if so, what exactly does that mean for his capacity to run the Federal Bureau of Investigation? Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat representing Ohio, and he joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Do you buy that? Do you think Hillary would have won if it hadn't been for Comey?
I think it's unclear. It clearly had some effect. But if you get into Wisconsin, Michigan, really, it shouldn't even been close in those states. We should be up, we should be winning those states by 9 or 10 points. I think it gets back to the fact that there really wasn't a strong economic message in the campaign. And at the end of the day, I think that made the difference more than anything else.
I agree with you there. But I also think it's plausible that when the FBI director came out and said, we're investigating one of the presidential candidates, and we're not going to be specific about what we're investigating, probably didn't help.
There's no question.
Why don't Democrats call for his resignation?
Well, I think it's unclear what impact it had. And clearly he justified what he had to say there. It had some effect. Obviously, I think you're investigating Donald Trump in July. Didn't talk about that at all. Didn't mention that at all. I think that was unfair, and it clearly dealt a blow to her campaign. But again, I don't think it can be said that he cost him the campaign. And the real focus now, moving forward, is not the tweets from Donald Trump about the campaign, not the comments from Hillary Clinton, is that the current president is under investigation by the FBI for ties to Russia and Russia's influence in the campaign. I think that, moving forward, is what we all should be concerned about.
Well, of course, Democrats would like to keep it there, but you're making an argument that contradicts itself, I think. Most Democrats are. They're saying that here's a guy who has a lot of power and misused that power, and that misuse of power affected the outcome of the election. But we still trust him enough to investigate a guy we don't like because it serves our immediate political purposes. That seems to be the position.
Well, the thing about the FBI position, and there's a reason why it's a 10-year appointment, is that it's supposed to be insulated from politics. And I don't think he intentionally tried to influence the election. I don't think that was his intent. Did he have some effect on it? Of course he did. Of course those poll numbers did sink. Another argument is whether or not it affected the election on the whole. But he's supposed to be insulated from these things, and we can have our opinions, but at the end of the day, you don't throw out somebody in the FBI because they do something you don't necessarily like.
Unless it totally violates precedent and principle and common sense, and it's compounded by a series of public statements that are baffling in their weirdness and overreach. Here's one. Today, he said, and I'm quoting, this is the FBI director, Russia is the greatest threat of any nation on earth to the United States and its democracy. Never mind China, North Korea, Iran, unsecured nukes in Pakistan. That is a deeply subjective statement. He's not a policymaker. Why is he saying things like that, speculating like that in public?
My interpretation of that when I heard it is that he was talking about the democratic process. Putin's affecting these elections in the Ukraine, in those Eastern Bloc countries, in Estonia, and in the United States trying to affect the democratic process. That's how I read it. Clearly, Russia is more of a threat. North Korea clearly is a threat. I thought he was referring to the democratic process.
So I was actually going to draw a little chart on my piece of paper here. So if we're to assess which world figures had a measurable outcome on the election, and you're putting Vladimir Putin in one column and James Comey in the other, I think Comey would win overwhelmingly. There actually is no extant evidence, if it's been made public, that Putin personally had any effect on this election. For all the talk, there's no evidence. But we know for a fact that Comey did. So it's a little weird, would you say, that Comey is trying to divert attention over, again, with presenting no evidence, to Putin?
No, we don't know about the Putin piece. Obviously, we know about the Comey piece. We know about the emails.
Well, exactly
that has been debated ad nauseum throughout the whole campaign. And Comey's statements, his testimonies were all very public. Putin was not working publicly. Putin was working covertly, and it sure does seem like he had a hell of an effect, releasing all those documents from the DNC, all of Podesta's emails, clearly hacking one political party over the other. And Tucker, we all should be concerned about this. I'm not saying this as a Democrat. We should be concerned that Vladimir Putin, who has influenced elections in other places, they're trying to do things in the Arctic with natural gas. They're doing things in the Ukraine.
I'm not here to defend Putin.
I'm just saying that.
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that any of this is true. That's the point. And after watching Comey again and again over the span of more than a year make these statements in public that are very hard to understand, claims that he does not back up, isn't it fair for the rest of us to say, okay, where's your evidence?
Well, this started in July. The investigation is underway. You have numerous people in Donald Trump's orbit who have not only met with Russian officials, but most importantly, and I say this as a father, lied about those meetings that they had with Russian officials. To me, meeting with them, fine, whatever, you had meetings. Lying about them, now all of a sudden the red flags go up. So to say...
Okay, but so red flags are different from evidence. Look, I'm just saying...
The investigation's happening now. You want... Okay, but if this was turned around and you know, they were trying to accuse Hillary Clinton of this, and we were saying, well, wait a minute.
I did say that. When he came out and said we're investigating her, my view was, at the time and now, you can't say you're investigating someone without explaining what it is and what evidence you have, because that person can't defend himself against an amorphous charge. And Hillary suffered from it, Trump is suffering from it now, and it's all coming from one guy, Jim Comey, and it makes me nervous.
But nobody's been prosecuted. Nobody's been put to a grand jury. Not yet, anyway.
Well, we'll see. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Tucker.
Well, despite admitting he may have influenced the election, Director Comey still offered his strongest defense yet of his conduct last year. He said his actions were compelled by then-Attorney General Loretta Lynch and her private meeting with Bill Clinton.
And the capper was, and I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me. And I then said, you know what, the department cannot by itself credibly end this. The best chance we have as a justice system is if I do something I never imagined before, step away from them and tell the American people, look, here's what the FBI did, here's what we found, here's what we think. And that offered us the best chance of the American people believing in the system, that it was done in a credible way. That was a hard call for me to make, to call the Attorney General that morning and say I'm about to do a press conference and I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to say.
Of course, whether the director made the right call or not, there is another question worth asking tonight. Why was he making that decision in the first place? Does the FBI director simply have too much power for a single unelected man? Joe diGenova is a former U.S. attorney. He has watched this process from the beginning and joins us now. Joe, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So I don't think anybody wants to have concerns about an FBI director, but is there a basis for concerns about this one?
Yes, I got mildly nauseous today listening to his testimony one more time. James Comey is a danger to the country. He surrounds himself with his own cult of personality. He believes that he is the last righteous man left standing. When he held that news conference on July 5th and accused Hillary Clinton and then exonerated her, he violated every rule and regulation of the Department of Justice. He should have been fired that day. He never should have been permitted to stay after the inauguration. He should be fired now for the testimony that he's given over the last few months. That July 5th news conference was the original sin. From it, everything else followed. He says today, what would you have done on October the 28th? Mr. Director, I would have done nothing because I never would have held the July 5th news conference, which forced you to send 2 letters to Congress.
So you've worked in and around DOJ for a lot of your life. Explain to the rest of us what was wrong with that July 5th press conference.
He usurped the function of prosecutors. He's a cop. He's the FBI director. He's not a prosecutor. He may be a lawyer, but he's not a prosecutor anymore. His job is to investigate, give the evidence to the Department of Justice, and let them decide. He usurped the function of every prosecutor in the Justice Department. He should have been fired that day.
Why wasn't he?
Because Loretta Lynch was absolutely impotent as a result of having gone on that plane on the tarmac in Phoenix, Arizona. The entire Department of Justice was so frightened of Jim Comey because of the way they had politically mishandled the Hillary Clinton email server investigation that they were afraid to contradict him. That is what you call a disaster in a government of accountability. He stole the work of the Department of Justice in a single day, and they sat there and watched it. A pox on all of their houses.
Very quickly, can you discern a political agenda here?
Not from him. The only agenda James Comey has is James Comey. He is his own hagiographer. As I said, he believes he is the most righteous man in the world and that he can do anything he wants. That testimony today was an example of how bizarre his personality is.
It was certainly hard to understand from this perspective.
Indeed.
Joe DeGenova, thank you for that. We've got a Fox News alert for you. House Republicans have just scheduled a vote tomorrow on their proposed replacement plan for Obamacare. Party leaders say they now have enough votes to pass this proposal. They're calling it the American Health Care Act. Of course, they were confident a month ago, too, and that vote was canceled at the last minute to avoid defeat. This one could be different or not. We will keep you updated by the minute. A new study out of Norway says that migrants are failing to integrate into the culture or economy of Europe. We'll have Katie Hopkins on that, who's at a front row seat. Also, American media insists they are diverse and competent enough to properly cover the president and the rest of the news fairly, impartially. But if you think about it for even a few seconds, is that really true? We'll welcome back the editor of BuzzFeed, Ben Smith. Joins us in a minute.
Tucker Carlson is brought to you by non-drowsy Claritin and Clarispray products.
Allergies with nasal congestion? Find fast relief behind the counter with Claritin D. Strut past that aisle for the allergy relief that starts working in as little as 30 minutes and contains the best oral decongestant. Live Claritin Clear with Claritin D.
To every dishonest member of the failing American news media, let me explain why you've never been less trusted, less credible, or less respected. For decades, you ignored calls from millions of gun owners to just tell the truth. All you had to do was just get the facts right about our guns and our freedom. But you never even pretended